Howdy, howdy.
Hello,
Scott, yeah,
hello. Hi, Kevin. How's it going?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for joining me today. People might know me because they might have followed me all the way to this page. I'm an outbound calling consultant, freak about cold calling, all things outbound, Hopp Consulting Group. Sky, why don't you tell the crowd a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. And first of all, I want to say, Kevin, thank you so much for having me on here. Very grateful to be with you here today. My name is Sky Grace, and I'm an account executive over at ORUM. I was an SDR for the past 8 months, used ORUM day in and day out to crush my quota, and I was recently promoted about 2 months ago. I came to ORUM. I had a job as a BDR at a company in Santa Barbara called Appfolio. Great company, amazing culture. Love my managers and team, but I knew if I wanted to get promoted to AE, I needed to sell something I was actually really passionate about, something that I believed in. And for me, that was ORUM. And so now I'm here.
Love it. Love it. Well, thanks for joining today. Believe it or not, everybody, Sky and I have only met recently here, but I feel like I know her so well because we both went to UC Santa Barbara, the greatest school in the world. Go Gauchos. Let's hear it. You still live in Santa Barbara, right?
Yeah, so I live pretty close. I'm about 30 minutes away. I live in a little small town called Ojai. It's about, I want to say like 35 minutes away from Santa Barbara, but super close. A lot of my best friends live up in Santa Barbara, so I definitely go up there to visit very often.
Love that. Oh, you're in Ojai. Ojai is a great little town. Really good golf in Ojai, by the way.
Yep, Soul Golf Course. And they also have a really good eatery there too. You can get like really good burgers and lots of delicious food.
Love that. Cool, cool. So, purpose of the live stream today, we're going to walk through ORUM and the platform a little bit, and then we're going to dive into some actual live cold calls. And aren't you going to be calling? Are you calling today, Sky?
I'll be here for along for the ride, offering some best practices. We can, break down the calls that you have. But yeah, I'll be here as a support for you.
Okay, cool, cool. That is good to know. I just wanted to check that our LinkedIn Live is working. Okay, cool. Pat, we are live, I guess, here, huh? Okay, cool. All right, we do have an audience. Weird. The platform is not showing anybody in the little corner there. But let's walk through. Let's say you and I, we don't work for ORUM or any other company. We're just saying to ourselves, the problem we're facing is, shoot, how do I talk to more customers in less time, more prospective customers in less time? Because you and I, just like most people, let's put it, most salespeople, our biggest problem is pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
Pipeline. So if I was trying to talk to more prospective customers, what if there was a way for me to have many, many live conversations with customers? Enter our tool here, ORUM. Sky, do you want to tell us in 10 seconds here, what is ORUM? Why are we going to use this today?
Yeah, absolutely. So ORUM is a live conversation platform that automates the hardest parts or the manual parts of dialing for reps. So, if you're using something like SalesLoft or Outreach, for example, or if you're just manually dialing off of a CSV list, it takes a lot of time. It takes anywhere from 3 to 4 minutes just to contact one person. You have to click to call the person, listen to the ringtone, click to leave a voicemail, click to hang up, click to disposition a call, etc. So all that clicking involved, it's just really time consuming. And with ORUM, we are automating all of that and only connecting your reps once there's a person on the other line. So,
ooh, exciting. It's as simple as this here. I'm going to walk through it. We go to ORUM.com. We're going to click log in. As Sky mentioned, a few really cool integrations. The Outreach and Salesforce universe is huge. So if you're watching this and you use one of those tools and you're not using ORUM, I'd be asking myself, how do I get this? And you'll see why. It's pretty slick. For today's purposes, I'm going to log in with my Google account. I'm just going to click this, click that, log into Kevin at HoppConsultingGroup.com. And we see the blank template. But I've already preloaded a list of leads for us, right?
Yep.
Go live dialing. Boom, boom, boom. Check this out. Okay, cool. So let's walk through a little bit here, like what this platform is designed to do. Sky, to your point, we're trying to get into as many conversations as possible. What I like, so a little background for the audience here. Hopp Consulting Group, I do outbound calling, structure, process, strategy for outbound teams. I've worked with a lot of dialers. Let's be honest. I've worked with a lot of dialers. There's a lot of dialers out there. I love ORUM. I love the UI. I love the experience. It's very straightforward. You say to yourself, all right, I'm going to call some folks. What do I need to see? You got to see your lead list on the right. All the data that we logged in or that I've loaded is to the right. We're not going to show the names of people here on the live broadcast, but you can see that I do have live numbers. When it comes to dialing options, we can choose which phone field we're going to use. For this example, I just have one. But if you have multiple numbers for a prospect, we can absolutely call that. Now, parallel calls. Sky, what does this mean? What is parallel dialing?
Yeah. So parallel dialing is basically enabling reps to dial multiple prospects. For a parallel dial, typically you can dial anywhere from 2 all the way up to 10 prospects at once. Typically, I would say reps will see like a 4x lift in conversations through a parallel dialer or a 4x lift in productivity.
Wow. Okay. So we're going to call multiple numbers at once with parallel dialing, or we can do good old fashioned power dialing, which is one by one. But what's really cool about ORUM is that it doesn't just do one by one. A lot of other dialers out there for the crowd, so you guys may or may not know, the dialers don't have these really cool little features. These features are super important, like auto detecting and skipping voicemails, skipping dial trees. If you reach the hello, you've reached ORUM, press 1 for this, press 2 for that. If our emphasis when we're using ORUM is to get into conversations, then this tool is designed, it looks like, to do exactly that. We're just going to get to the people that we want to speak to. And you can even silence your ringtone. Now, shout out to all my cool callers out there that have dialed manually by hand, right? Which means picking up one of these and going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you go. Well, in about 20 minutes, you're going to need a break because all you're going to hear the rest of the day is that ringing in your ears. The feature here to be able to silence the ringtone, phenomenal, unbelievable feature. Love that. Makes it very effortless to make a lot of calls in a short period of time. We can choose a dial out number really easily. We can cycle through those. We can test the caller ID to make sure it's not going to show up as a spam number because we're not spammers. We are business professionals trying to have a business conversation. I've already done that, so we should be ready to rock. And there's an entire voicemail drop functionality built into ORUM, which allows you to create a comprehensive outbound campaign. So I'm talking to those folks out there that are using Outreach and SalesLoft, which is a lot of people. If you're using Outreach and SalesLoft, you're trying to get a number of consistent touches to folks over time. And this voicemail drop is going to let you have an awesome little moment where they're going to hear your name, hear your brand, hear what you have to say, and move on to the next step. And ORUM automates all of that. Boom, boom. So why don't we saddle up the dialer and get going? So we're going to follow some rules here. The rules are we can't play live calls without consent on air. So you're going to hear one half of the call. You're going to hear what I have to say while I'm dialing with the prospect. And Sky and I will talk about every call as we go. So Sky, while I'm pulling up the dialer here, talk to me a little bit about this journey from sales development rep to account executive.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say for anyone that is, looking to essentially get promoted to account executive or to, a CSM or, move forward in their next step. For me, I really worked, I worked really hard. I put in the effort, I put in the work. I think having the right mindset is really important, like believing in yourself and knowing that when you have challenges, you're not straying away from that. You're confronting them head on and you're learning to build like a really, I would say like winner's mentality there. Organization is really key as a rep. Keeping your pipeline organized, updating, your pipeline and really staying updated on your follow-ups, which is another thing I love about ORUM is that once you get connected to a prospect and that prospect says to you, I can't touch base right now. I don't have a budget. Follow up with me Q3 or call me next week. I'm at a dentist appointment. You can actually create that one-off call task in ORUM and tell yourself the date and time to call that person. And then ORUM will do just that. So one of the ways I booked a ton of meetings was keeping organized on my pipeline. So that and I would say also using ORUM. I mean, I was able to book a lot more meetings, bring in a lot more logos, and that really increased, my pipeline as well as helped me crush out my goals. Looks like Kevin's on a call.
Oh shoot! All right, I was on mute. Could you hear me, Sky?
No, I couldn't.
I love it. I love it. First live event. We got a little
Yeah,
problems
yeah,
with the
we're
buttons.
working it
I love
out.
that. Love that. All right, cool. So I'm jumping into live dialing here. So I'm going to press go on my side. Once again, can't show it because we're trying to be sensitive to people's contact information, but we will recap every call after we go. I'm calling heads of sales, people that run sales organizations, and I'm selling Hopp Consulting. But as we all know, on a cold call, we're not actually trying to sell anything. I'm selling the meeting. Cold calls are interruptions. What I want is a focused meeting with a prospect to have a discussion about outbound calling of all things. So let's press go. Boom, boom, boom. All right. So Sky, before you worked at ORUM, were you familiar? Did you work with any other dialing platforms?
Yeah, so I was using SalesLoft, which was, obviously a great platform, but I ran into exactly what most reps run into. I was pretty burnt out. I had a high KPI of cold calling. We were, big on cold calling, and but I didn't have enough time to like really send those personalized emails that I really wanted to send because I felt like that was really important. I didn't get a lot of time to receive coaching and feedback and all of that. So although the platform was great, this was kind of like a dream come true when I was able to figure out there was something out there like this, and even better when I was able to join the company. So, but yeah, very familiar with clicking a call. And so I experienced exactly what every single rep out there has experienced as far as, yeah, just trying to hit those goals of booking meetings. And it's tough, but I definitely think that, having that like mindset really helps. And yeah, so ORM really helps too.
That's
And Kevin, you made a ton of cold calls. How many cold calls would you say you've made since your sales
uh,
career?
just me in my sales career. Probably thought I had a live one. I did not get a live one. I have made probably 500,000 cold calls. Let's be
Oh my
real.
gosh,
So
half
I
a
spent a
million.
year. So I've had a kind of interesting career here. I realized I was really good at cold calling, and I jumped into
Mhm.
consulting. The first year I was in consulting, I was a hired gun, aka hire me, I'll
Mm.
make cold calls for you. I'll convert
Mhm.
at a high rate, and I did just that.
Mhm.
I was using a dialing platform at that point that did a lot of volume, and yeah, I spent an entire year just grinding on the phones. And I've,
Wow.
I've since elevated what I do
Mhm.
step by step. So I learned how to get really good at cold calling. Then I learned
Mhm.
how to train people to be really good at cold calling. And
Mhm.
the evolution of that is after you train people to be really good at cold calling, can you advise entire teams on how to get structure and process from the very most elemental part? So backing all the way out to the spreadsheet of how do you build a sales development organization and what are the numbers behind it. The dialer here is rolling, waiting for a good pickup. Ryan has a good question here. Let's look at this.
Yeah.
Ryan, how do you get around blocked numbers with smartphones? My understanding, Sky, is that if someone has that blocked number feature on their iPhone, it's not going to ring. Hey, Elaine, how are you? Elaine, this is Kevin Hopp from Hopp Consulting Group. I know I'm calling you out of the blue. It's a Monday. Did I catch you with 30 seconds? I could tell you exactly why I reached out. Fantastic. Well, Elaine, I speak with sales leaders like yourself pretty often, and they mention that their outbound calling teams tend to avoid picking up the phone on a consistent basis. And when they do get on the phone, they're really not converting those cold conversations at a high rate. I was curious, does this kind of resonate with you? Is this kind of the situation? Oh, wow, interesting. Well, you never know. Sometimes in a lot of the companies I speak to, like BDR, SDR functions will roll up to the sales leader, but you're letting me know that at this point, that's in marketing. Okay. Oh, okay, okay. So if you were me, someone who's obsessed with helping outbound teams have better conversations, feel confident on the phone, who would you speak to at your organization? Okay. You guys like when you say investment, do you mean just what's that? Uh, okay. Okay. Well, thank you for giving me all that information, Elaine. I really do appreciate it. I will put in my calendar to circle back with the marketing organization later this year. But I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks for taking my call. Cheers. Okay, cool. We had
Go,
a
Kevin. Got into a conversation. Woohoo!
it does work, people. It does work. The software does work. So this was a vice president of sales. They said something very interesting, which is something I'm actually starting to see now. Sky, tell me if you don't like vibe with this. Like she said, I'm not the right person because no one on my team is making cold calls, but marketing is where all the cold calling is going on.
Yeah. I mean, I would kind of ask like, it sounds like maybe they have an AE team, and maybe, you could ask something like, well, does your AE team need to be fed meetings booked from those SDRs? Like maybe kind of dig into that a little bit more. I do also find too, like there are some companies, sometimes smaller companies that have marketing that's basically heading up the SDR, the BDR team as well. So, but yeah, I'm definitely like curious, like to find out, since his team isn't doing calling, but is there a team underneath that that's feeding his AE team?
Yeah. So what I learned there was that she basically said no one on my team is making calls, right? So it's a structure. That's my dog saying hello on the live stream here. It's a structure that I am also sort of familiar with, which is where like demand gen and the BDRs live together in the marketing org. Interesting. So I'm gonna actually mark her as a nurture opportunity. So I'm going to call that a nurture. So this positioning is really key inside of ORUM. I'm going to click next prospect so that we're going to be on the road to our next conversation, hopefully here. So inside of ORUM, we can choose a disposition which will make a dynamic action happen to that prospect. So with Elaine, when I clicked nurture, it's going to take her out of my cold calling sequence. Really important structure and process wise, if you're an outbound calling organization making any calls, to be able to separate people that you haven't talked to and you're trying to talk to from people that you have talked to, right? There's a difference between a cold call and a warm call, right? If I call Elaine back and I say, hey, Elaine, you and I spoke at this time and this day about this, and this is what you told me, the odds of her hanging up are very, very different. So we want to make sure that we have a structure. Your team, anyone watching, you want to make sure you have a process in place for when you connect with someone and you need to follow up with them to make sure that you have that information in front of you. ORUM makes this really easy. Fun fact. ORUM does make it really easy. We are rolling, waiting for another conversation here. So Sky, you mentioned trying to ask about their AE team a little bit. How often are you guys running into AE teams that work with ORUM, or what's the use case there? Why would ORUM be good for an AE team?
Yeah, so ORUM would be good for an AE team, obviously, if they're making calls and they're making dials, but also, bigger picture wise is also like what the SDR team is doing underneath of that. Like, is the SDR team booking meetings for account executives? It may not essentially directly be something that the AEs use, or it can be depending on what's going on. But if there are SDRs that are calling and are booking, for AEs, and it's definitely worth a conversation for VP of sales. If they want their reps to have a filled pipeline with tons of meetings on their calendar, then I definitely think it's something that they would be interested in learning about, and definitely worth like having that conversation with them.
That is a very good point. One of the things that when I talk to teams that say things like, "Oh, well, cold calling is dead." Well, yeah, like cold calling by hand down a list or
Yeah.
using a click to dial on a spreadsheet, that's dead. That's dead. Have you ever tried to do that? Like
Yeah,
it's like the worst thing ever. You
super
spend
time consuming.
you spend so much time listening
Yeah.
to ringing, and the phone's just ringing and ringing, and you're like, "Oh my gosh." Using a technology platform like ORUM does make life a lot easier. But more importantly, for an account executive team where their focus is not all on lead generation, it's time. Time is the one resource we all have the same amount of, but
Exactly.
we all use differently, right?
Yep. One thing that's cool that Kristen or my SDR managers used to do with everyone that was new that got hired onto ORUM is they would all make us like manually dial. If no one had any experience as a BDR or an SDR, they'd actually make us manually dial so we could actually feel the pain of what it was like. And then we'd be gifted ORUM to really feel like that comparison and see like the huge difference there. Otherwise, like if you haven't manually dialed, it's like you don't realize like the type of grind it takes to get through. Like, especially if your manager's giving you like 100, you need to make 100 dials in a day. Like that's a lot. It's a lot to do. It's very time consuming. So I love that we were able to experience, both of that from our managers. It was great.
I think that's a fantastic exercise. Like honestly, like having reps pound, 10 digits at once to get into conversations, like that would be a phenomenal way to show them like, look, we can I can make you walk to school both ways uphill in the snow, but I won't do that.
Yep.
So we had Landon asked here, where are we at in terms of calls made so far? I'm doing the power dial function, and I'm about 21 calls in, and we've only been dialing for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, 10 minutes.
So we are cruising along here, trying to get into a conversation. Might flip it over to parallel if we don't get a call here in the next minute or two. So we talked about the idea of like manually calling. That's where I got my start, and that's how I got to like when people ask like, how did you even come up with Hopp Consulting Group or the idea to be involved in this space? Is I was an SDR at a venture-backed software company, and our idea of like accelerating pipeline growth was to get rid of all the chairs in the room. So we had a real like calls. Hey, is this Justin? Justin, how's it going? This is Kevin with Hopp Consulting Group. Did I catch you with a second to chat? Sorry about that, Justin. Cheers. All right. Looks like Sky dropped off, but I just spoke with a guy named Justin. Justin said something very important. Okay. What Justin said is, I can't talk right now. I got to go. And I let him go. Can't overstate how important it is to let people go that are not ready to have a conversation. Sky, welcome back. How are we doing?
Thank you. Doing good. I just got disconnected. Sorry about that.
All good. All good. So I just had a quick conversation with a guy, and the permission-based opener, which you're a fan of, I think I'm a huge fan of. He said, I can't talk right now. I'm on the other line, which by the way, shout out to all my callers watching this. Like, how many times do people pick up the phone and say things like, oh, I'm in the middle of a really important meeting?
All the time. Why are you picking up the phone?
If someone called me right now, I'm not going to like pick it up. Like I'm doing something. I'm busy. Look, there are things we will never understand about the way the world works, and that is okay. But onward, the dialer is rolling. So one of the things, let's talk about that little concept for a second, the permission-based opener. Some, gurus, trainers, folks out there think that it's a terrible idea. Now, from my immense experience in outbound calling, I can tell you that the number one thing that outbound callers will like mess up in the first like probably 90 to 120 days of calling is what I call the false negative. A false negative is when someone says, yeah, whoa. Hey, take me off your list. I'm not interested. Wait, who is this? Yeah, what is this about? Oh, yeah, we're set. We're good. We're good. I'm good. All right. Okay, well, I get it. You're good. All right. I wasn't calling to see if you were good or not. I was calling to have a conversation. Now, when that happens to a rep, the most common thing that they'll do is they'll say, oh, I just talked to Steve. He said he's good. I'm going to mark him as not interested.
Mm-hmm.
And in our system, no one's going to touch him for like a year, 18 months. It's going to like, that record is going to go, whew, right? It's going to go into the deep corners of your CRM. You're never going to see Steve again. False negative. Right. So I have a disposition that I built into ORUM that I use in all my dialers when I use this, and it's called not a phone lead. So you pick up the phone and someone's really hostile. We don't nix them off of our list forever. We just say, this guy's not going to be a phone lead, which, by the way, is really important that I acknowledge, right? As a guy who's an outbound calling freak, I love cold calling. I love all of that. All of this, it's not just phone. There's a lot of people in your target market that won't pick up a cold call. If they're not going to pick up a cold call, we have to reach them another way, right? So the false negative is something you want to avoid like the plague. How do you avoid a false negative? Permission-based openers. You simply ask people that you're talking to if they have a minute to have a conversation or not. If they say no, we say, okay, goodbye. Hang up the phone, move on, call them again tomorrow. Call them back. Keep them in your sequence. Keep them in your cold outbound list, which just like washing our hands, just like lifting weights, just like, like dieting and exercise, we should be doing it every day. You should be reaching out to your cold list at least once a day because discipline is the key to getting good outcomes here. Discipline. Talk to me about, do you guys have like call blocks or like do you like block out?
Yeah. So I like to do that. I like to organize my schedule with like a call block, top of the hour at like 8 or 9 in the morning, and then top of the hour at 12. We have companies that, vary on that as well. Some companies like to do like a 2-hour call block, but I think it's definitely important when you're using ORUM. I think, what people find is that they have all of this time back in the day with their reps. And if that's not allocated back into other sales initiatives or personalization of emails, that's what we want to see. So when we bring people through our trials, we see that big amount of time savings, and then we work with the manager to basically put that time savings back into sales initiatives, back into prospecting, adding more prospects, personalization, and also coaching too. So, but yeah, I definitely love to have those calendar blocks. That's a great way to stay organized, and also for managers to keep an eye on what their reps are actually doing throughout the day, especially in a remote work environment.
Ooh, that's an interesting topic too. Is like, how do I know that my reps are actually being productive?
Yeah.
Well, ORUM has a robust analytics and call history feature where you can just find out, right? You can just go in and see who's dialing, what are they dialing on, and listen in on calls even too. Really important to understand how many conversations are being had.
Absolutely. And we also are able to track too, like how long reps are actually talking, how long they're actually dialing, what is their session time. So we can look at all those things and basically be able to, throughout the pilot, share what we're seeing on our end as well.
Yeah, I love that you guys do a pilot too. Is it not all the time, but most of the time, do you guys involve a pilot in your process?
Yeah. So we're a complete ROI driven solution. We won't take on customers unless we know for sure that we can help them. And that's the purpose of the pilot. Basically, we align, with our champion, with our EB, what are the success metrics you need to hit in order for ORUM to make sense? We train the reps, we provide them with, a ton of support, training. We get them running on the pilot. And then at the end, we actually give them like a comparison. Like, what did it look like when you guys didn't have ORUM and you were manually dialing or using something else? And now what does it look like?
Angela, how are you? This is Kevin with Hopp Consulting Group. Hello? Yeah, my name's Kevin. I'm with a company called Hopp Consulting Group. I know I'm an interruption. I kind of caught you out of the blue here. Do you have a minute? I can tell you why I called. All right. Catch you another time, Angela. Bye-bye. Well, this is gonna happen when we call it's 10:32. So she's like, "Oh, I'm 2 minutes late to a 10:30," which is kind of interesting. Like, why pick up the phone when you're 2 minutes late to a 10:30, right?
Yeah. I saw a question come in here from Andrew.
Yep.
I wanted to answer that because I think it's a really great question, Andrew. Like you asked, what comes onto your screen when a call is connected? What info about the target do you see? So this is one thing that keeps us really being strategic with ORUM, and how we're able to help companies be strategic at scale is once the screen is connected, all of the prospect information that you guys decide to pull in from your CRM will be populated. So during our setup process, we pull in those, outreach fields, for example, like things that your reps will need to have a successful call, such as prospect research, account research, like maybe their LinkedIn URL, previous call history, etc. That way, when the reps do get connected, they're armed with the information to really have a great and meaningful conversation. Because the goal of ORUM is not just like, we want you to make a ton of dials and that's it. The goal of ORUM is for those meaningful conversations, and so that your reps, essentially love using ORUM and feel prepared on the call as well.
And to that point, I would show right now. I can't show my screen because I want to be sensitive to cold prospects contact information. I'm sure Andrew wouldn't like it if I showed his cell phone with his name on the screen either. So can't show that right now. But if you want to learn more about ORUM, Sky, can they reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, please reach out to me and we'll direct the demos to the rest of our account executives as well, and make sure that everybody can get a live cold call. It's actually really fun, all including myself, the SDR team, the AEs. We all use ORUM. I'm an SDR first and foremost. And during our demos, which is really fun, we actually use a live cold call list. So it's not a demo list. These are real people that we're reaching out to build our pipeline. So it's a lot of fun. Sometimes we get connected and book meetings on our demos, which is a lot of fun.
Hey,
Sometimes
this is Kevin with Hopp Consulting Group. Russell, how are you? Fantastic. I know I'm calling out of the blue here on a Monday. Did I catch you with a minute and I can tell you why I called? Awesome. Well, I noticed you're a director of sales, and I wanted to check real quick. As a director of sales, what's that? Oh, okay. I might have some bad data then. I have on my screen it's showing that you're a director of sales. Are you involved in sales at all, or do I have the wrong Russell? Love it. Well, Russell, I hope you have 18 holes of golf in your future this week as a retiree. Bye-bye. It happens.
it happens. This is exactly, I mean, we're making live cold calls here and it happens. We get hung up on, we get yelled at, we get referrals, we book meetings, we do all of it. So
Or you call for Russell and you connect with a Russell,
but it's not the right
this
Russell.
Russell is retired and it is not. So you know what am I going to mark this in the dialer? Wrong number.
Yep.
I'm not going to mark not interested. I'm not going to mark not a phone lead. I'm going to mark wrong number so that in my process, I know I can go back and find a different number for Russell a different way and try to reach back out to Russell. Really important piece of kind of strategy there.
Perfect.
Ding, ding. So talking about like the information that comes up, Sky, talk to me a little bit, like how much do you guys put into like the pre-call research? And ORUM does a pretty good job of pulling in like any fun facts and interesting things that you want it to out of your outreach, sales loft, Salesforce.
Super easy to pull in. You literally just, we just set the reps up and they tell us like, what is it that, we ask them, what do they need to have a successful call? And whatever field is currently in their engagement platform, like outreach or sales loft or their CRM, like Salesforce, we can pull that in for them. I do think like prospect research and notes is really key when you're reaching out to your prospects. You know exactly who you're talking to. Like for us, and same thing in alignment with Kevin is, we have a hook. Hey, this is Sky from ORUM. Are they keeping you busy? We do an upfront contract to get their agreement on the call in the first place, which Kevin and we do on our side as well. And then we go right into the reason for the call. And so the reason for the call is, and that's when we, as reps, we're looking at that information. Oh, I just saw you were promoted. It looks like you're hiring your team. Like all of these things that we're finding when we're adding these prospects in, we're including. So it shows to that prospect, like, hey, we see you. We know you. We know what your goals are. We know what you're doing. We know what's happening. And then that builds that kind of like repertoire with the prospect as well. Cause they're not like, oh, this person just called me out of the blue. They don't know anything about what I care about right now. So it gives us that leg up there to have that meaningful conversation.
As much context as you can is really important. What I like about ORUM is that idea of like, we can put it all in a formulaic fashion, right? So the walking uphill both ways to school in the snow version of that is pre-call research. And everyone who's watching this has done this at some point, unless you worked for like a high growth organization that had a guy like me there that turned the cold calling process into a machine right away, which is pretty rare, believe it or not. Like the idea of doing pre-call research. When I was a BDR, even before I was a BDR, I was the first hire at a tech startup. So I didn't have like a sales manager or anything. It was just me and the CEO. Really fun job, by the way. I did a lot of different things. But I found myself doing a lot of pre-call research. Well, let me look at their LinkedIn. Let me look at their website. Oh, let me look at who they're connected to. Trying to find things that I can talk about on the call, right? I'm a huge fan of having some research and relevance, but at the same time, we should build lists based on common things. So one list, one message. So right now I'm calling all sales leaders that should have a team underneath them of some makeup, right? So if I know that, what I do at Hopp Consulting is one value prop for this whole list. So as I'm dialing, this is just like a formulaic process. I know exactly who I'm going to talk to. It's a sales leader at a SaaS company. I know exactly what my value is to them, and it's all written out. I have a script. So this is a process which is not that hard to get going. This is what I do. If you guys are really interested in sales process technology, contact me. LinkedIn, really easy to do. And you can leverage technology like ORUM to make this super easy, right? Like we are cruising right now. Might be our connect rate's a little low. Hello? No, that was not the guy picking up his phone. I thought it was. Why don't we pivot to parallel dialing? Are you ready to rock?
Let's go. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So now, for the crowd, I will share my screen and show kind of what this looks like, just so we get a taste of the sauce here a little bit. Here we go. So once I hit go, oh, whoops. This is the last guy that I was in. Save. Boom. So now we're calling multiple people at once. I can crank this up to 3, 4, 5. But right now we'll just do 2 at one time. And what's really cool is that there's artificial intelligence technology at ORUM that's actually listening to what is going on the other side of the call. It's only going to connect me if it's an actual live person. So the AI is sensing here, your call has been forwarded to an automatic skip, right? It'll skip that right away. I can crank this all the way up to 5. Fun fact, I am a OG ORUM user. It used to be 10.
You can still, actually you can crank it up to 10. We just mitigate that initially for, newer reps on their call. Oops,
hey, Chris, how's it going? This is Kevin with Hopp Consulting Group. Yeah, my name's Kevin, and I'm calling with a company called Hopp Consulting Group. I know I'm calling out of the blue here. Did I catch you with a second to have a conversation? Well, I'll reach out another day if you don't have a minute for a call. I didn't mean to interrupt you here. All right. Yeah. So Chris was busy. A lot of busy people here today.
Can we, yeah, I know it happens. And that's why back to what I was saying earlier, like we can call up to 10. Really, we base off how many prospects you're calling based upon your connect rate. So we can always increase that up to 10. We have it set at 5 now. That's just to kind of like keep it like at a good mitigation. That way you're not, getting connected left and right. So we work with teams during the trial process to mitigate that and make sure that they're hitting that, that number of prospects that works best for their team and their connect rate.
That's right. We are trying to have as many conversations as possible. But the interesting variable that like I find frustrating, right, which I'm sure a lot of people do, is are people going to pick up the phone? Like, wow, that was really interesting. It was like a Google Assistant thing that picked up the phone and said, Kevin is busy right now. He can't pick up the phone. I've never heard that before. That was interesting.
It could be for somebody that maybe, obviously I didn't hear that on the other line, but it could be for somebody that isn't able to speak or isn't able to like has like a disability. So that could be a reason. I've heard that very often, which is great.
Yeah, I have heard that before where it's like they're like it tells you like an AI answers the call. It tells you I'm going to transcribe what you said.
Yep.
Very interesting. What are the odds of calling one of those people? Jeez.
Well, yep. So yeah, and then another thing too, what you guys will see is like on the, I see a question.
Great
question, Lauren. That's like the most common question we got, and I'm so glad. I was hoping somebody would ask this. So,
hey,
Lauren,
this is Kevin with Hopp Consulting Group. Is this Pam? Hey, Pam, how are you? I was actually looking to chat with Patrick real quick. Is Patrick around? Yeah, I think I do. I was trying to. Okay. All right. Bye-bye. Another wrong number.
And that's totally fine. But the thing too to kind of like mention is ORUM's actually going to clean your data. So the more reps use ORUM and the more that like at the end of their call block, we teach them how to clean up their data and basically tell ORUM not to call these wrong numbers or failed numbers, etc. And then over time, ORUM is actually going to clean that data. Managers can then create a report within outreach and clean the data that way as well. So the connect rate over time starts to increase too.
That's right. To Lauren's specific question, it hangs up on the other calls. So let's say you're calling 5 people at once. It'll hang up on 4 people if one connects. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, shoot, if I'm calling from the same number every day all the time and I'm hanging up on people, aren't they going to be really upset? Yeah, they will. So part of the magic, which is ORUM, and I love this piece of it, is you can have up to 10 call from numbers. Now, why is that important? Now, some people might think right now, like, I don't even say it. Well, that's kind of sneaky to change your call from number. Like, that's kind of disingenuous. No, it's not, because they don't know who you are or why you're calling. If I choose a call from number in ORUM, it doesn't say like, this is Kevin with Hopp Consulting Group. It's just a number on their phone. So when that number hangs up on them, they're going to have that weird moment where they look at their phone and they go, huh. But then guess what? They're going to go on with their day. They're going to go do anything else. ORUM has an awesome feature where it'll take that number that you hung up on, put it at the bottom of your list. So when you reach the bottom of your list, the system says, hey, now you're calling numbers that you hung up on. Change your identity. Change your number, right? Change your call from number. You call from a different number, which is completely unique to them. You have to remember, like, and I talk about this a lot, like people tend to put a few things into cold calling. Hey, this is Kevin with Hopp Consulting Group. Josh, how are you? This is not Josh. All right, cheers. Wow. Another wrong number. Love that. Don't love that. Going to have conversations about my data selections here. I am getting into calls. I am not getting into calls with the right people. I'm saying, hey, this is Josh. It's not Josh. So what was my point here? So people tend to put into like, they think, oh, well, if I'm calling someone, then the number ringing on their phone, that's going to mean something to them. and it should be like really important that I called. You got to remember that it's 2022. Our phones get dinged and buzzed and
We get
called
missed calls all the time.
and emailed constantly.
Yep.
So you are 100% the stranger in the dark until you're not. But if you know that and you have a system like ORUM, which allows you to call from different numbers and like call back from a different number, then all of a sudden it becomes something that you use to get into a conversation, a business conversation with somebody when they're ready to talk, right? And that's all we want to do. And the whole time when I'm calling people and they're not picking up, and it's like, oh, well, I'm spamming everybody. And a lot of people tell me, oh, well, we don't use an auto dialer because we don't want to spam our market. Well, what that means, when you say that to me, all I hear is I don't want to talk to people in my market. I'm going to go really, really slow, and my reps are going to have 2 to 3 conversations a day. That's it. Right? They're not really going to connect. They're not going to connect well. They're not going to have a lot of conversations. It's not going to, right? Because using an auto dialer doesn't spam anything. It's not email. Every one of these calls is not leaving, here's the company that called you on it. It's not the way it works. It's just a number that they don't know ringing on their phone, right? Do you run into that, Sky, where people say like, well, I don't know, this might be spammy. This might not be a good approach for us because we want to have, a tailored approach.
Yeah, absolutely. And my answer to that is that, yeah, we want that for you guys too. We want you guys to be strategic at scale. And that's really where we like to have that prospect information and that account research information, and any, previous activity gets pulled into ORUM. That way the conversation is meaningful. It has context. We know exactly, did we talk to this person before? Like, what's happening? Are they looking to IPO this year? Like, what are the different variable factors? Absolutely. We want our conversations to be meaningful, and we want, companies to be strategic at scale. And that's exactly what ORUM does.
Ding, ding, as the dialer is running. Let's give a quick rundown here. Where are we at? 81 dials.
Woo-hoo!
One really good conversation so far, which is going to be a hot follow-up for me. This is good stuff.
And something else I kind of just wanted to add to what Lauren said too. So like, just going off of what Kevin said, totally spot on. ORUM does measure it down to the millisecond. The very first person that picks up the phone is the one that we are going to connect with. The other person's going to get a missed call. And then that's when our call forwarding feature comes into play. This is somewhat kind of new. So, the rep does have the ability to call that rep back. If the rep's dialing, they can get bridged into that conversation. Or if not, that's fine. They can finish their call block. And at the end, ORUM will actually remind the rep to call that person back. So you see a lot of outbound calls, but you'll also see inbound calls coming into reps as well for more of those conversations.
Which is a functionality that ORUM added not too long ago. Yep. And I love it. I love it. I have a fun fact. One of my clients right now that I am that I am helping develop their outbound motion, the outbound SDR team. The rep was making outbound calls, got a call back, and that's when he scheduled a super important, huge demo. So like the callbacks can be very, very important. Yeah. Right. Like it's an awesome feature. I'm really glad that ORUM has that built into it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we are too.
Things are just getting going, right? I mean, ORUM's constantly working on innovation, which is exciting.
Yeah, we do. And we have like some cool things in beta testing too. So if anyone wants to come on to a demo, we can speak, maybe speak to a couple of things that we have going on as well. We definitely want to share ORUM with everyone that's on here, if you haven't seen it yet.
Love it.
So you said if a prospect calls back the missed number, where does the call go? So the call is actually going to go back to the rep. We keep track of all of the inbound calls, just like we do the outbound calls. And within ORUM, you can actually like filter and see like, oh, how many inbound calls did this rep have, or how many outbound calls that they had. So we keep track of all of that.
Yeah, so it'll ring on the platform, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yep. It'll ring on the platform. And then the rep then has that ability. If they want to get connected, they just click.
Hey, this is Kevin with Hopp Consulting. Brad, how are you? Yeah, my name is Kevin. I'm with Hopp Consulting Group. I can hear that. I think you're in a car. Are you out and about? Yeah, absolutely. We never spoken before. I was hoping to have a introductory conversation. I'm with Hopp Consulting Group, so that's what this is regarding. But sounds like you. Well, okay, fair enough. So I help outbound calling teams set up process, structure, and strategy so that they have success when they call out. That's what Hopp Consulting Group does. Brad, when you mentioned all set, does that mean? All right, there we go. Classic, classic, classic. Okay, so this is one of these scenarios where Brad says, "Who are you?" and I tell him who I am, and then of course it doesn't ring a bell for him. So I ask him, "Do you have a minute to talk?" I can hear he's in his car doing something else. I call out the fact that he's in his car, and he pushes me harder on just tell me exactly why you called. So I gave him the 30,000-foot view of what Hopp Consulting is. And immediately, what did he say? I'll let you guess.
Not sure.
I'm not interested. Take me off your list.
Oh, there we go.
So
Typical.
this is a great lesson. This guy would probably be what I call not a phone lead because he was busy when I called him. How do I know that? Active listening, right? So this is something that I always work to train reps on, like, guys, it's not just on your terms. You are interrupting someone who's in the middle of doing something else.
Yeah.
And the level of availability to actually take a call is going to vary greatly, right? So when I interrupted Brad and I called him and he's like, "Hey, who is this?" Oh, yeah, it's Kevin Hopp Consulting Group. And he goes, well, who is this? I'm like, "All right, Brad, I just told you who this is, but here's who I am. Are you available? I can hear you're in a car." I called it out. And he didn't care. He pushed harder and was like, "Just tell me what this is about." And as soon as someone says, "Tell me what this is about," 99 times out of 100, 99 times I've done this so many times. The only reason they want to know is so they can tell you they're not interested.
Yeah.
Because they don't like cold calls. Brad doesn't like cold calls. He doesn't like getting cold called, right? Very few people do. But our goal, using a tool like this, using a structure and a process, is to find the people that are open to a cold call. If you're open to a cold call, then we could potentially have a conversation. But Brad is what I'm going to call not a phone lead.
Awesome. And then Lauren, you asked if a prospect calls back the missed number, where does the call go? So within ORUM, reps are going to set up their cell phone number. So it's actually going to go back to the rep's cell phone when they call back. And if they want, that prospect can leave a voicemail if they like on that rep cell phone. But yeah, Kevin, I love that. I think that's great that you have that set up. It's awesome.
That's all process. That's just process and structure. This is like part of the methodology that I coach teams on how to use. Because just because Brad said, "Take me off your list," like immediately after I said like the one-liner, what my company does. Yeah. I don't know anything about how he's solving the business challenges that I exist to help solve. Yeah. Right. So the other thing that's really important that reps tend to mess up on this, they tend to just think that if I don't get this person to take a meeting right here, it's all over.
I used to think that too. I used to be like, "Oh, you're not interested? Okay, bye." I'll follow up with somebody who is. Typical rookie move.
Well, it's just so important to remember that because you're the interruption and you're calling them out of the blue, you have to be sensitive to that and just let them, all right, this guy's like, fine, he's going to bully me on the phone and say like, "Tell me what this is about." I knew in my head as soon as he said it, I'm like, oh, shoot, he's just going to say he's not interested because he doesn't want to have a phone. He doesn't want to have a cold call right now. Yeah. He's busy, right? Actually doing something. So the other thing is like understanding, having the mindset that you understand that the people that you're calling are getting interrupted, right? Yeah. One of the lessons that I teach outbound callers is everyone you're calling has a problem. The problem is you just called them. So get to the point, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What is the reason for your call? Yeah.
Exactly. But you also have to guard that, right? The whole way I teach script structure and process, you have to guard that with the "Are you ready for a conversation?" Because if you get someone who's ready for a conversation and you nail that script, what happens? You only have two outcomes at that point, pretty much, which is you're going to learn a lot You're going to learn something really interesting about their company that you can use to sell to them later, or you're going to set a meeting. Like what did we do earlier? I learned all about what this org was doing. Before I picked up my phone to call today, before I turned on ORUM, I had no idea what that organization was doing when it comes to outbound calling, their SDRs. You can make a guess by looking on LinkedIn or something like that. But huge, huge learning moment there, right?
Yeah.
What does Colin say? Not interested without a good reason, aka call me back at another time. Now, Colin, that's an interesting take. Like, I tend to teach, don't call people who say take me off your list, because this is one of these, like, pick your guru on LinkedIn, you'll find a different take on it. But I tend to think, hey, this is Kevin with Hopp Consulting Group. Is this Justin? Hey, Justin, did I catch you with a second to have a conversation here? I can hear some background noise. Sorry. Yeah, that might have been someone else. Not a good time though, Justin. I'll talk to you later. Well, he was busy.
Well, another good
people out here.
Potential good follow-up.
That's right. I'm going to keep him in sequence. So people like that keep in sequence, meaning we're going to talk to them another time, another day. I'm not taking him out. I'm not going to disposition him as not interested or anything like that. He is someone that's just going to stay in there and someone we're going to do. So Colin says, depends on when they say it. I guess, but like, I don't know. Like if I tell someone to take my number off their list and they call me back, I'm not amenable to a conversation. Like I would be like, wait, didn't I tell you not to call me? And you just called me. Now I'm angry.
Yeah.
So it's like poking the beaver. But I think one of the other things, to Colin's point, is probably timing, right? If you wait a long period of time, then they can totally forget about it. You know what I mean? If they forget about it, then it's it is what it is. Moving on. Well, we've come to the end of our time here. Let me roll up a little bit of overall roll up. So we dialed for about 45 minutes. I got 2 connects that were actual conversations that might lead to something. I had 1 conversation of over a minute, which was pretty cool. Total actual dialing time of about 22 minutes.
Wow.
So that's a lot of activity that went on while we were just having a conversation here. I love it. Yep. Well, Sky, thanks for joining today. I do appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Kevin. It's so great to meet you again, like officially, and excited. Where can people contact you for your services?
Yeah, if you're interested in outbound calling, structure, process, strategy, coaching, design, all things cold calling, hoppconsultinggroup.com or my LinkedIn. You probably are on this broadcast or saw this at some point because of LinkedIn. That's a really good place to find me. I'm very responsive there. What about you, Sky?
Yeah, you can email me at sky@orumhq.com. And if you're interested in making some live cold calls with some of the SDRs and account executives over here, send me an email and we'll get you guys set up.
Love that. And if you want the whole kit and caboodle, which is for me to help you guys with process structure and to use ORUM, I have a great relationship with ORUM. Happy to do that. If you're an ORUM customer and you want to talk process structure, I'm your guy as well. Cheers. Let's play the outro. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye, guys.